Thank you for joining CBTS Tech Talk. I'm the producer, Lance Hart, and today we're going to be talking about revolutionizing networking, exploring Broadcom's merger with VMware, and VeloCloud's revival with Sanjay Uppal. I'm going to turn it over to my buddy, Rob Mesmer. He's pretty awesome. Rob, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. Today's a real exciting one. This is probably the most number of registrants we've had for any session, and it's really because we've got one of the biggest partners that's been in the channel with some big news. Matt Douglas to my right, John Lloyd to my left, and Sanjay Uppal on the video conference. Sanjay, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Great. So, prior to the acquisition by Broadcom, VMware has been a massive partner in our portfolio. VeloCloud, particularly in our channel,
almost helped make our name in the channel.
Definitely the flagship offering for CBTS.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's we've won many times, including last year, Partner of the Year, named by Broadcom for edge computing. And so for our partners out there, thank you for joining. We wanted to take this time because there's been lots of questions from the partner community, from your customers on, hey, what does this Broadcom acquisition mean? Maybe you've heard rumors, maybe you've heard speculation from Broadcom's competitors. What we wanted to do, and one of the values we think we bring to the channel, is not only having the OEM technology behind our solutions, but really the connectivity into the business to understand where they're headed so that you can help consult with your clients. So that's really what we're here to do today, and then also answer questions. Sanjay, if you don't mind giving us a little bit of background on yourself and really kind of, we call it revitalization or rebirth of VeloCloud.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity to chat with you and then address all of your partners as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sanjay Uppal. I was one of the people who founded VeloCloud, and I was also this founding CEO. And of course, had no idea that we had the start of something that would essentially revolutionize networking and make it software defined. We had some extremely modest goals when we started, but fast forward 6 years from the time that we started, we were acquired by a company called VMware. And VMware was all about virtualizing the data center, but we were extending that out into edge locations. And then, another acquisition happens, and this happens to be November 22nd last year, which is 2023, Broadcom acquires VMware. And now it's been 6 months since the acquisition. We're part of this larger organization called Broadcom. But I'm delighted to say that while we were at VMware, we were really saying that this was, the VeloCloud brand as such was not used as much. It was really VMware. But I'm very pleased to say that under Broadcom, we've made the decision from an executive standpoint to revitalize, relaunch the VeloCloud brand. And of course, VeloCloud has always been around. While of course I'm biased, I continue to think that it's the best solution out there for networking. And given a chance, I will describe to you what's going to go on in the future as well. But we're back, and we're back with VeloCloud, and we're back with partners like yourselves. Extremely pleased with the partnership we've had so far. And once again, thank you for inviting me to this webcast.
And Sanjay, many of us never stopped using the VeloCloud name.
Right.
I don't think I ever stopped. Yeah, much to VMware's chagrin for a while.
Yeah.
So
that's the reason we are revitalizing it, honestly, because people didn't stop using the name. Mm-hmm. They associated the product and the service with VeloCloud first. And therefore we thought, wait a minute, if they're still using VeloCloud, why not just go back to the brand? And that's Broadcom's philosophy of branding. Let's just use the brand, the simplified brand that customers and partners are using already. And that's why we're back with VeloCloud.
So you mentioned simplified. I want to talk about that, and let's use this as kind of the opening state of the business in the future. We've seen with Broadcom, obviously they've spun off the end user compute space from VMware. We've seen simplification with VCF and VFF. And it feels like in your space, maybe some simplification around SKUs, making it easier to consume, but it feels like VeloCloud's really untouched. Can you talk to us a little bit about where VeloCloud and your whole business unit sits in the acquisition and what our partners can expect go forward with the go-to-market?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first thing people should know that Broadcom's tagline is connecting everything. Connecting everything. So while VMware was much more about the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud and virtualizing the data center with networking, compute, and storage, really Broadcom is about connecting everything. So we find ourselves, with this portfolio of software-defined edge, find ourselves in the center of what Broadcom is doing. Now, VMware has added 4 divisions or businesses to Broadcom. And you pointed out a couple of them, which was the VMware Cloud Foundation, which is again about virtualizing the data center primarily. There's application networking and security around the data center. There's Tanzu for developers and extending out multi-cloud management. And then there's us. So software-defined edge is digital infrastructure that you would deploy outside of data centers. And you would deploy it both in the telco network itself. So we go in there and we modernize and monetize the telecom infrastructure, whether you're an operator deploying fiber or 5G or whatever have you. So that is our telco cloud platform. And then we have a layer that sits very close to the enterprise for running compute. And this is our edge compute stack. So we find that there are reasons now, especially with AI. So edge AI, I'm not going to say about generative AI and all the excitement that's happening with that back in the data center and these large training models and everything. But inferencing at the edge is really beginning to take off now. And when you do that, you need to run workloads closer to the edge because of lower latency. And so there's our product offering called Edge Compute Stack. So you see this telco cloud platform, Edge Compute Stack at the top. The nice, tasty filling in the middle is VeloCloud. And VeloCloud, we think, of course, it's for connecting branch offices together. It has simplification as one of the driving principles for VeloCloud right from the beginning. But it's more than that. It's actually the layer that can understand applications running on top. And it can not just optimize any access network underneath, but in the future, we'll be able to take hints from the access network and program the access network. Very important as fixed wireless access, satellite, and a whole bunch of other access technologies are coming in. And as the demand for highly resilient, low latency access is not slowing down by any means. In fact, the rate of growth is expanding. And I see that that's going to continue because AI is going to bring a whole new set of demands onto networks. And that's why I think SD-WAN, particularly with Velo and with partners like yourselves, is extremely well positioned to take advantage of that.
So if you would, Sanjay, talk a little bit, our channel here, we're used to this product, thinking of it as SD-WAN, right? As an edge technology to connect branches, branch to branch, branch to data center, branch to cloud gateways. Then we started to work in the industry with SASE, with the advent of SSE, kind of cloud security services. So our channel still kind of thinks of SD-WAN not so much as the telco side or that edge compute, although I think that's starting to happen. Talk a little bit about where VeloCloud's headed then with what our channel thinks of kind of this traditional SASE model, and where do you think artificial intelligence, and where really I think where are you guys going with research and development with kind of the traditional layer that we think of in the channel?
Absolutely. So firstly, where you're focused about SD-WAN, that is absolutely the rock solid center of what SD-WAN was always about. It is about simplifying connectivity. It is about making connectivity much more resilient. It is about access to cloud-based applications, regardless of where you are. And if you expand out the definition of what is a branch office, and if you include things like a manufacturing floor or an oil rig or a pop-up retail store or a clinic, all of these are branch offices. If you expand the definition of branch office to that, you've really captured the essence of what VeloCloud is about, not just was about, but is about and is going to continue to evolve to. So that's the bedrock of what VeloCloud is about. It's about software-defined networking. Now, there's of course a need to add security to that, and there's various ways of getting it done. The SASE term got born primarily because of a discussion between a few industry analysts and folks like us, and then it was, Well, if networking is moving to the cloud or the edge and being run as a service, what about security? So it's natural to say that, okay, as the traffic is flowing, let's look at what traffic there is and what kind of security service or framework or policy to apply to it. And so it really goes together because you want secured network traffic. So that's how the SASE piece came in. And I'm very pleased to say that we have partnered closely with one of our sister divisions called Symantec, and the SSE solution, which is the security part of SASE, is going to be tightly bound together with Symantec so that your partners, if you want SASE, one-stop shop, come to VeloCloud, you'll get the VeloCloud SD-WAN with the Symantec SSE all in one nice package. So that's one. Now, there are customers who say, wait, but I want to choose my own SSE. Absolutely fine.
We do that today.
We continue with our simplification path as you're doing today. And Zscaler, Netscope, Prisma, and things like that, we have that path as well. So that covers networking and security. But where the puck is headed is new workloads coming in, like AI workloads, that are pushing some of these workloads to the edge. So it's not about just accessing from the edge, it's also about having workloads at the edge. And when you do that, then we are saying, or at least I'm saying, is that the SASE a C needs to be added to it. And that C is the compute part. So there you have it. It's networking, security, compute. And that's the continuum that we're on. And the compute part is pushed even more by the advent of AI running at the edge. But your partners, just to reiterate, you and your partners are squarely positioned at the center of what SD-WAN and Velo is all about, which is simplification, resiliency, automation of the networking itself.
We do have a question that came out here of, because of the experience with VMware, are we going to be seeing increased costs? And so I think that's something that, John, you've dealt with as well with some of the customers. So why don't you talk a little bit about your experience, and let's get Sanjay's take on that.
Yeah, so from the CBTS side, so far, the answer is no, we haven't seen any changes. What we have seen is simplification. And so you may remember in the past, partnering with CBTS and VeloCloud, we would look at, is it a 510? Do we need a 610? Do we need onboard LTE? Do we need wireless, or is it an end model? And then we'd say, was it 10 meg or 30 meg? And we would have to go and kind of build out this BOM. And there was a lot that CBTS honestly hid from our partners around simplification of packaging. And in the new world, what we've seen from Broadcom since the acquisition is really simplifying. So some new hardware in the 7 series, really more powerful boxes at the edge. So less hardware choice, which makes things easier. And then the elimination of some of the SKUs instead of having to decide between, 250 meg or a 400 meg, like just that sort of simplification. So the short answer is those SKUs don't cost us any more. What has changed is we may not have access to all of the SKUs, but that really is more in line with some of VeloCloud's competitors anyway, making it easier to consume a 50 meg, a 500, a multi-gig. Is it a small branch, a medium branch, large branch, or data center? So I think that's where you may see a little bit if you were looking for a mid-tier SKU that no longer exists and now we need to go to a higher one. But for the most part, the short answer is no. CBTS has not seen that. We've just seen simplification. Sanjay, anything you want to share around future plans?
No, that is absolutely spot on. Honestly, we had one too many SKUs, so we've eliminated a bunch of SKUs to make it simple to transact with us. Of course, we've gone through a complete cutover to Broadcom systems, so there's some amount of work and issues that have cropped up because this complete switch over. This is the largest technology acquisition in the recent past, and so one would expect that there would be such issues. But other than that, it's actually about simplification, and we're not here to upset the apple cart in any other way, but to make it easier, not just to transact, but to actually install, operate, and maintain these solutions as they roll out. So that's been the philosophy. New hardware coming in, absolutely virtualized hardware. And then, of course, we have our new client as well, the software-defined access client, or SODA in short. And that should really expand out to next generation VPNs. You might want to install it on the side of a machine, all kinds of new use cases that are cropping up. But yeah, you're absolutely right, John. The ideas about simplification in the operation, but also in the transaction.
And replacing VPN is becoming part of a standard SD-WAN SASE fabric now. So it's great to hear you guys are adding that. Can you talk a little bit about maybe sometimes in the VeloCloud world, don't take this wrong, but there was maybe a perception that the reporting and alerting hadn't gotten as much R&D over the last couple of years. Can you talk a little bit about that SD-WAN product and user interface, where you guys are headed, you think, with some of those features long term?
Yeah, certainly. So I think that there are a number of data feeds when you look at what's going on in an SD-WAN system. And the idea is to aggregate and correlate these data feeds together, but very importantly, to be able to learn from it as well. So what you saw us doing in the past was a little bit more reactive. We're going to get a lot more proactive in terms of allowing not just the people who operate, but also the end users to figure out what's going on in the systems. And the new word for that, of course, is observability. Now, I've been around a long time, as you can see from the color of my hair. What used to be called monitoring and then telemetry has become observability. Yep. But it's more of a closed loop system going forward. And we are very fortunate that in our distributed system, we can collect information from all kinds of devices. I mean, each one of the Velo edges acts like a sensor, as you know. And then we have an infrastructure that we have integrated in with edge intelligence. And that edge intelligence allows us to do this correlation. And now when we add in the dollop of AI to it, you can have some really interesting solutions to common problems that people will have. Like, why is my Wi-Fi not working? Well, you actually can have a very intelligent answer to that from all the machine learning and training that you can have with the reams of data that we've collected and anonymized. We're not going to take anything and attach it to anyone's actual personal information or anything that can be correlated back. So what you'll see from us really is pressing the pedal to the metal on observability, along with our next generation client that is coming up, the expansion of hardware, and then these new wireless access technologies, whether it is satellite, fixed wireless access, all becoming really important. So the amount of access technologies is not, the amount of applications is increasing. And so you kind of have an hourglass sort of figure. Lots of applications, lots of access, and the choke point in the middle is really our Velo SD-WAN system. One place to go, one place to get the resiliency, one place to get the policy and the telemetry and observability. Very excited about this development.
To that end, we've got another question. How is Symantec going to be integrated into the orchestration layer of VeloCloud? And one of the things that I think our customers from our partners enjoy is that our solutions are co-managed. So they get into the orchestrator, they can see their network, and how does that integration look?
The philosophy is exactly the same. Symantec, and that's one of the sister divisions here to me, run by another a great guy, Rob Greer. And so what we've decided to do, Symantec has on-premise offerings and they have the cloud-based offering. So the cloud-based offering is what we're integrating in. Because it is cloud-based, it gives us the same philosophy in terms of how we will be able to not just have a single mechanism to get in, to commonly start with single sign-on, but then a single mechanism to be able to have co-management as well. So what we've done with Velo is we've taken the VCO and we are expanding that out into, we're calling it now a VECO. So a VeloCloud Edge Cloud Orchestrator. And so when you have an edge cloud, you can orchestrate not just the networking layer, but you can orchestrate security, you can orchestrate edge cloud as a service. That's the path that we're on. And when we do that, then security becomes another set of services that you would orchestrate along with the same mechanism.
Excellent. What about, so I know one of the things I talk with partners a lot, and it's kind of like Velo was always the best as far as internet as transport and making the internet perform better with DMPO. And I think there's not as much publicity sometimes around, you mentioned edge network intelligence being integrated in not only to the data stream, but also into the orchestrator and SOTA, right? And agent based and moving firewall features, advanced firewall features into the box. There's a lot of development that continues within VeloCloud. And I don't know that it always gets publicized. And we're talking about Symantec getting put in. And you mentioned earlier some of the integration with partners like Zscaler, like Prisma with their new Strata Cloud offering. And I think one of the great features with Velo is some of the automation around optimized tunneling. So when our customers and our partners' customers come to us and say, we're very interested in best of breed, we understand what Velo is going to do with all these tools at the branch. We've already got an investment into, say, Zscaler. Can you talk a little bit about what is a unique advantage when a customer maybe has Zscaler already from an SSE, of how VeloCloud and automation enhances that?
Yeah, for those of you who are familiar, there is automation in what we call ICOM. ICOM stands for install, config, operate, and maintain. So along that entire life cycle, when we say automation, we're covering all the bases of this life cycle. So with Zscaler in particular, we've done, excuse me, both the POP-to-POP integration as well as the management plane integration. So you go into the VCO drop-down menu, select Zscaler, and then you have the packets that are flowing through, and you have the service chaining as well. So that's the philosophy that we want. This is the microservices philosophy. You add new services, you don't change the ICOM model of automation. And automation is really what it's all about, because as the number of workloads are increasing, as the number of access technologies are increasing, you cannot afford to have anything manual as a part of this process. Even in the observability that I was talking about, of course, we would want human beings to read the reports and everything, but we really want to get to a point where under the approval of a human being, there is the self-healing network that actually takes action to what is happening. And with the advent of things like SLMs, these are small language models that might run at the edge, we're looking forward to see how these networks can get even more automated than what we've put in today. And I think we're world-class on the automation side.
Yep.
We do have a question talking about where do you see VeloCloud's growth coming from? Any particular verticals, any particular segments? Again, our partners are oftentimes kind of dealing with customers in the 500 to 10,000 employee range, those mid-market companies that are looking for help. Of course, we've got some enterprise customers as well, so do you, obviously. But where do you see, what would you tell our partners about what they need to be looking for? What are those verticals or what are those areas that you think VeloCloud's going to excel in the future for them?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, while SD-WAN has been so popular, it's still about 20 to 30% penetrated. So you have a tremendous opportunity both with the medium enterprise segment as well as, of course, with the much larger enterprise segment. Now, I think that SD-WAN itself is a fairly horizontal technology. But when you look at the use cases that are cropping up, those use cases for networking, especially when it connects to all these distributed locations, tend to be vertical. So when you look at a manufacturing solution, it tends to connect all the suppliers together or the manufacturing sites together, even into the distribution network sometimes. And the kinds of applications and workloads that you would run there tend to be specific to the vertical. So while you might hear, in fact, you might hear sometimes about opportunities that don't even mention the word SD-WAN in there. But you have a distributed network that needs automation, that needs resiliency, needs to use any kind of transport, meaning it's not locked in as we used to before into a particular type of underlay that is expensive. When you have all these characteristics, that's of course where you should say, hey, this looks like an opportunity for SD-WAN. Because I'm finding more and more that as you look at the growth of access technologies, like fixed wireless access in this country has actually taken off quite well. Satellite technologies, one would have not guessed 5 years ago that some external operator would come in and launch a satellite technology with differentiated service in there and be quite successful with it. When you look at that, you think that, look, we can improve on both of those. We can improve on the combination as well. Like you get a fixed wireless access with fiber, that's a converged offering. You get a fixed wireless access with satellite, that's another converged offering. All these converged offerings have an opportunity for the end user to get a much better bandwidth per dollar spent for resiliency as well as for rolling out a lot of these new applications. So the growth is going to come from a variety of verticals. Of course, the commonality is that they're all distributed. So you need to have a lot of locations for this to actually make sense. And then it's really a matter of who's not been disrupted in the past and how can you get in and get to that 70% of the market that is still not served with a good SD-WAN solution.
And so what you talk about kind of the distributed access. We think our benefit, our place here is we're unhandcuffing our customers from big bad global telco, right? Who say, we've built our own private orchestrator and it's fed by our MPLS with our dedicated internet and our broadband internet and our 5G internet. And we come in at CBTS and we say, well, hold on, VeloCloud has unhandcuffed you. You don't have to buy all orange circuits, for example. We want you to go and source what makes the most sense. So for us, we kind of view the competitors for CBTS as those kind of global telcos. We can be faster and more nimble. What I think is unique is VeloCloud, you might view pure SD-WAN players as a competitor. You also have an SSE component. And then you also have this edge compute stack that I don't think other SD-WAN players are certainly competitors in that space, but not necessarily from this SD-WAN vertical. So who do you view as VeloCloud's competitors? When you look out at the landscape, is it other SD-WANs? Is it SSEs, single vendors? Who are you looking at as your threats in the competitive landscape?
Yeah. So, my division, my business is all about software-defined edge. And as I pointed out, there's a telco cloud platform and the edge compute stack at the top, and the filling in the middle is VeloCloud. And when I say filling in the middle, I'm actually likening it to a cookie. So think of an Oreo cookie, right? Edge compute stack, telco cloud platform, and the Velo. You take a bite out of the whole cookie, and we're the only ones who can make that cookie because no one's got the compute and the Velo and what we serve in the underlay. The underlay is actually quite important. You don't have to supply it as a partner, but technologically where this is headed is opening up the underlay so that it can give you hints and then you can program the underlay. Not here today. Networking people have been talking about it for decades. It has not happened, but I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel for this programmability to happen. So competition for the entire Oreo cookie, none. Competition in each individual layer, there is. There's competition in the compute layer. There's competition for people who sell stuff to telcos. There's, of course, competition for VeloCloud as well. And I would never denigrate my competitors. They all have a good play, one aspect or the other. But when it comes to even two of these layers, or definitely three of them, there's scarce competition. And I'm completely convinced this is where the puck is going towards, and that we together, you folks, as you rightly pointed out, you're the ones who can take use of this technology that helps disrupt. We are the disruptors. I tell my team, go out there and disrupt. Don't just participate in the disruption, go make it happen. Because whenever there's disaggregation, it opens up opportunity for innovation. That's when folks like yourselves and us can benefit.
And I think as we're getting to about 3 minutes left, you're talking about mobile splicing or network on demand with kind of that underlay, the intelligence to understand network constraints in real time and being able to allocate needed resources, almost like quality of service used to be on MPLS, but we're talking about true network on demand built off of the VeloCloud technology.
True network on demand. I mean, there's lots and lots of cases, a police car going to a crime scene, they want to integrate the drone feed in there. Will they be willing to pay another $20 to get a pristine 4K image of that crime scene? Lives are at stake. Yeah, they'll pay $20. I sat in one of these police cars. I saw what happens when you sit there. Most frightening experience of my life, but nevertheless. And, there's tons of such use cases. I hesitate to use the word slicing because it's been used so often. And network on demand is what we're trying to get done. And it will get done. It will get done because these interfaces are opening up. And you can't open up the interface and go directly to the app. You need this layer in between. That layer is VeloCloud.
Sanjay, as we wrap up here, talk a little bit about a vision for the future. You've been through 2 acquisitions here. You founded this company. You've been through 2 acquisitions. There was a perception in the channel maybe that VeloCloud lost a little bit of direction in the kind of middle segment there. You've decided to stay here. You're building a team. Talk a little bit, leave with a partner here about a vision of where you're going, where the team's going, Broadcom's investment, their commitment to R&D, because the channel is understandably had some questions with that in the past. So talk a little bit about the future and where you guys are headed.
Absolutely. And I actually will liken it back to the dude in The Big Lebowski. So the dude, that rug that he has, for those of you who watched it, it ties the whole place together. That's what we are at VeloCloud. We're tying this together for businesses like you and for customers out there. And that, we are 150% convinced this is the path to be on. Yes, I can understand why people are nervous because, another acquisition has happened. it's been a little difficult to get some of these, perhaps been difficult to get some of the devices out there, but we are convinced that this path that we're on is not just going to disrupt and help networking for branch offices, for enterprises, but it's going to be the revolutionary change for the next decade or so. Everything from what we have today, new access technologies, new applications, and edge AI. Watch this space. Edge AI is going to be big, and VeloCloud is going to have a massive role to play in it. And if you've seen what Broadcom can bring together as an overall company, I am actually extremely pleased and thrilled to be a part of this journey, because when I look at the other sister divisions here, they are absolutely a part of this journey that we're on.
But that's fantastic. Sanjay, thank you so much for joining us. For all of our partners that spent the time, thank you as well. It's really good to have you and kind of talking about your perspective in this space. So thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for the opportunity, and happy partnering, happy selling, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Sanjay.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Cheers.